I'm delighted to say we're joined in studio by Alex Denning, Motorsport Ireland Young Driver of the Year. Alex, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Last time we saw you, we all had our helmets on, so you didn't recognise us.
Yeah.
And myself and Shane and Nathan.
Yeah.
It's just three of us?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was competitive, but pretty sure I was the fastest.
Well, Nathan begs to differ, but you're sitting here in front of me, so I suppose you are.
It was nervy, I'll tell you. The first few laps, you're thinking, this is, how do these guys do this for a living? But once you get into it, you're like, it's properly addictive. Like, you can sense the thrill, but it was an experience and a half, I have to say.
When we were down there, you were waiting to find out you'd been shortlisted for the Motorsport Ireland Young Driver of the Year, but you ended up winning it. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. There was 140 candidates, and at that point we were shortlisted down to 3 people, so 2 of the other instructors were actually working in Mondelo at the time, so quite a nerve-wracking time, but we had a great time with you guys down there. Like you said, it's quite a unique experience, and it's the same for us guys. Every time we get into a faster car, it feels surreal how fast you're going, but you felt it as well. After 3 or 4 laps, it just becomes normal until you look down at the speed and see you're doing 200 kilometers an hour.
Yeah. What do you normally drive? What car are you driving in at the moment? What are you racing in at the moment?
So I'm driving an Aston Martin GT4 car. So that's a spin-off of their production road car. And they race against 6 other manufacturers in GT4 European Series.
Right. And so is that a single seater? No,
so it's a sports car, so it's like any kind of supercar you'd see on the road, but they're a fully fledged race car. They're built from the factory as a race car, so they're fully stripped out. They're on slick tyres, they have a racing gearbox, etc, etc. So not only do they go fast in a straight line, but they go very fast around the corners.
What speed are they going?
Top speed about 250, 260 kilometres an hour.
Goodness, right.
Yeah.
And so where are you racing those?
So first weekend is Monza next weekend, or this weekend even, and that's going to be the fastest track on the calendar. So we'll be seeing them top speeds 250 kilometres an hour.
Temple of Speed.
Yeah, Temple of Speed. Yeah, I've never been there, but last year I'd never been to any of the tracks in the UK, and it was a first time every time. But I have a racing simulator at home that simulates the track and the car, and it's incredibly accurate. So as soon as I get there, I hit the ground running.
You've been watching Formula 1 since you were a kid, no doubt. So like going to Monza for the first time this weekend and taking a really fast car on the track, that must be dream come true stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, it's surreal. And I can't, I have to remind myself every time I go to these tracks that how privileged I am to do it. And you take it back and look 5 years ago, if I had looked at the situation I was going to be in now, I wouldn't believe it. So yeah, it's important to remind yourself of how lucky we are to do these things, and for sure, yeah, it's going to be surreal, when I stand up in the bank and in Monza for the first time.
So you mentioned it's an Aston Martin car. Since we were talking to you last, I think you were signed up to the Aston Martin Academy as well, which is a massive step in your career. What does it mean for you to have that? What does it entail?
Yeah, it means a lot, so it entails there's probably 400 or 500 Aston Martin drivers across the world, but I'm narrowed down to one of 20. They give us support for racing simulation, media, fitness, and guide us through our career. So the goal is to win that, and if I win that, I get factory assistance, so I'm affiliated with the brand to race for Aston Martin as such. That came about 3 weeks ago after they saw my progress. I'd won race out in Spain, where I finished second on my first time out. So to be affiliated with a brand with such heritage means the world to me.
You've been balancing college work in the last couple of years as well with driving. Like, how do you even manage that? Because it seems like such a discipline, driving, that is that you need to be fully invested in it. You need to be fully concentrated on it. So it must have been quite a challenge, I guess, to be thinking of other things as well.
Well, yeah, I'm glad it's over at the moment. Yeah, I'm graduated now, so all I have to worry about is my motor racing. But yeah, for sure, it was a massive balancing act. I had my first race last year, which we were contemplating not even doing because of my final year exams the week afterwards. So I had practice on the Thursday. I was studying on the Friday, back to racing on the Saturday or on Sunday. But I always find you can make time for these things. when you don't have anything to do, you end up doing nothing, and then when you have lots to do, you actually end up doing so much more. So it was just about balancing things, and I found that, you know, I was able to balance it quite nicely, and I was able to get my degree whilst also finishing quite highly in the racing.
I remember talking to like the likes of Alex Dunn even down at Mondello before, and it often comes, the racing gene, that way. Like, your family is steeped in racing completely. Parents, you've grandparents, aunties, uncles. Literally, you were never going to be doing anything else.
No, it was fully ingrained in me as a child. I've been racing for nearly 16 years now. Most people look at me and say, you hardly even look 16. How the hell are you racing 16 years? But I started back in 2007 racing karts. At that stage, both my parents were racing against each other. My grandfather used to race. Two of my aunties used to race. My uncle.
What were they all
my brother?
driving? All the same type of car, or
different cars. My dad raced in Clio Cup and a Fiat Punto Abarth. He was a 5-time champion, so he was the most successful out of them all. But yeah, mainly tin top saloons, mainly in Ireland. So yeah, there was never any time that we expected to be doing anything else.
Did you say your parents used to race against each other?
Yeah.
Is that how they met?
Say again?
Is that how they met? They met through racing?
No, they met separately to that, but I think my mum got the bug off my dad, and there's actually some photographs of my mum running into my dad, so they came to blows.
Okay, so tell us about you start out as a karter. What's the progress? Like, how do you keep going, and ultimately, what is there a specific aim? Like, is Formula One the dream? Is that a realistic dream? How do you get there? What's the staging post along the way? Or are there loads of other things you could do? Be like, yeah, that's a brilliant career for me.
Yeah, there's many spin-offs you can do out of racing. I've chose the GT route in particular because nowadays it's extremely difficult to race in Formula One, as many people know. You know, you need luck, you need skill, you need contacts, and you need a lot of money. So the GT route was a more realistic route, and there's a lot more opportunities there. And as you said, like, you know, I started racing karts at 8. You can actually start racing karts at 5 now. So you've little kids coming in this height that are doing 70 kilometres an hour. I still can't comprehend it, but yeah, when I was growing up karting, it was always a way of life. But it was only when I got to the age of 18 where I was winning karts at a national level that I said, you know, there could be a career path in this. And when I won the Fiesta ST Championship in Ireland and beat everyone else in Ireland, I knew that there was a strong chance that I could make a career out of this. So
what's the step up from there? Talk us through that kind of. So you go from the Fiesta in Ireland. Where do you go next?
Yeah, so I won the Fiesta ST Championship in Ireland, and then I went to the UK to the Mini JCW Championship, which is one of the most prestigious championships underneath British touring cars. So.
And so JCW, what cars are you talking about?
It's a Mini JCW, so it's their fastest road car, which is, yeah, it doesn't resemble much of the road car after a while, but that was last year, and they're a very tricky car to drive, even more so than the Aston Martin, and I had 7 wins in that and finished second overall in the championship. So yeah, that gave me a strong confidence boost, and I've now made the move into Europe. Right.
And how do you go from the England success? Is there an agent along the way who's working on behalf of the team who's saying, here, come and try out for this, and is there like is that race in Spain basically, if you do well here, you know, it sounds like a lot of pressure on that one event, or was it kind of preordained in advance of that, like, just don't screw this up and you'll be grand? How does that work?
There's a lot of questions there. Yeah, so a lot of people have managers who you know, carve the path for them. I've always chose to do my own thing, because I always have my own beliefs perfectly aligned. But yeah, I picked the route out for myself. You spoke about pressure there. I always just think of one race ahead, never think of the bigger picture. You know, I obviously have a 3-year plan, but yeah, I just try to do the best job as I go along. But yeah, I always think of what's best for me at that time. Where do I want to be, and what can give me the best platform to get there?
And how do Aston Martin get interested on the back of the Minis? What's that process?
Well, that was all preempted by myself. So I said, I want to be an Aston Martin factory driver, and what's going to get me there? And the answer was GT4.
Okay.
So after I did one race completely organised by myself, that's what aroused the interest from Aston Martin themselves.
Okay.
It's funny that we had James Rowe in studio, Kildare driver, obviously over in Indy now in America, but he's almost like a businessman. You talk about the sponsorship and the difficulty in raising sponsorship and awareness, and doing interviews, I guess, is one way as well of getting the media interest in your own profile. But you're almost like a businessman as well, because like James was telling us he was going over to meetings in America and sitting in conference rooms and chatting to people and trying to drum up. So you're a driver in one element, but you're also essentially a business person.
Yeah, well, like you say, it's selling yourself. We don't get on the grid by sitting back. The driving of the car is just one small piece of the jigsaw. So it's far in excess of 6 figures to go motor racing for the year at this level, and I fund the whole campaign through sponsorship. Like you guys touched on earlier, I won the Motorsport Ireland Young Driver of the Year award for €50,000, but still I had to come up with a lot more, and I reach out to contacts, I reach out to business and corporations who might be interested in it, and I have to sell my entity and what I can offer to businesses to expose their brand to get me on the grid to go racing.
Do you ever feel pressure? Because like you mentioned that you look 16. You're not quite 16. You're 23 now, is it?
Yeah, 23.
So, and even when I'm speaking to Alex Dunn and James Rowe and these lads, you all have an aura. There's a confidence. It's not quite an arrogance, but it's a sense of your own self and belief in what you do. So I wonder, do you ever feel pressure?
No.
Never?
No, I like I touched on earlier, I always try to just think of the next race. You can get very caught up if you're going for a championship. Oh, what am I going to do in a year? Worry. And it's the same when you're raising a budget to go racing. If you think about the bigger picture, you go, geez, how the hell am I going to raise all that money? How am I going to win the races? I'm up against this fella and this fella. You just have to bring it back and believe in what you've done, and just you can't take no for an answer. Just look forward to where you want to be, and you'll get there.
Go on. I was going to ask about the specifics then of the season. So Monza this week.
Yeah.
How many races are in that season?
So there's 6 weekends spread across from April to October, and we have 2 races per weekend. So it's each race is an hour long. We swap over. We share the drive with another driver, so it's half an hour each, and two races per weekend.
Okay. And are you guaranteed to be in the car for the whole season, or is it like
provided the other driver doesn't crash? Yes. But yeah, I've signed for the full season.
Okay. And are you in the car on your own for that?
Yeah, you're in the car on your own, but then you do a pit stop to share in the endurance race.
Okay, right. And how do you measure your success versus everybody else? Is distance travelled in that half hour? Yeah,
so it's over the hour race. It's whoever completes the most amount of laps in the least amount of time. So
right.
It is a balancing act because there's someone else sharing the drive, but Aston Martin have all sorts of metrics that can disentangle your performance from the other driver's performance, or even if the Aston Martins are slightly slower than another car, they can disentangle all that. They've more metrics than I can possibly think of, but you have to focus on your performance as well as the other driver's performance, because it's a team event, and if you go out and burn out the tyres within the half an hour and give the car to him with no tyres, then you're not going to win the race. So
yeah.
It's a team event.
There'll be a little bit of tension after that.
Absolutely.
I imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that's the plan for the next 5-6 months, is kind of entirely focused on that. How do you prepare physically for that then? What's your physical regimen like, and how intense is that half an hour on the body?
Yeah, it's massively intense. I underestimated going to Spain earlier in the year. It's a big jump up from the minis. So like you've over 3 Gs of G-force, and everything is based out of your core, your arms, your neck and your back. So I've done a lot of physical preparation since. I run, go to the gym. So I'm a sponsored gym membership as well, which helps massively. And yeah, I normally do mountain biking. I had a mountain biking crash 2 weeks ago, so
Jeez.
I'm going to stay off the mountain bike for the year.
The heat as well. Like I got out of that car at Mondello Park that day on a normal day in Ireland, like drenched in sweat, and we were in our own civvies, like, but I mean, you've been racing in 37-degree heat, like you mentioned, Spain and all these places. Like that must be, with all the gear on and the helmet and everything, just physically arduous.
Oh, it's massive. You know, you have your helmet on, you have balaclava, you have underlayers, you have the suit, and well, luckily this year we have aircon, but we've never had aircon before. So, like you said, last year, 37-degree heat in Snetterton with all the fireproof suit on. You don't really think about it at the time. It's when the race finishes, and you can actually unwind and relax that you feel like you're going to collapse. Can
you drink water during the race? Or
yeah, we can now. So in GT racing and endurance racing, there's a drink system in the car.
Right.
But again, that also gets hot when it's, you know, it can be 60, 70 degrees in heat in the car. So I tried to do some heated spinning classes and some physical work, even in the sauna, to prepare for the heats.
Hot yoga is your only man.
Yeah.
And so what does success look like then over the next 4 or 5 months? Do you have to win races in the Aston Martin? Is that what the expectation is?
My aim is to be at the front of the Astons. Like I said, there can be a difference in the performance across different manufacturers. So my aim is to be at the front of the Aston Martins. And if that so happens to be the front of the overall grid, absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, you said there were 6 other teams, is that right?
So there's 6 other different cars. So there's Audi, Mercedes, Porsche, McLaren, Toyota, Aston Martin and Chevrolet. So,
and how many Aston Martins are there in the race?
There's going to be 16 Aston Martins.
Okay.
But 52 cars.
52 cars
52
at any
cars.
one time on the track?
At one time on the track.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I've never raced against that many people. I didn't believe it when I first heard it. But
and is there overtaking in that half hour? Or there is, right?
Yeah. Well, hopefully if we're out the front, we won't need to do any overtaking.
Wow, okay.
But yeah, 52 cars down into turn 1 in Monza is going to be interesting to say the least.
How do you simulate that? Because like, no matter how good your simulator at home is, it's not quite. Can it manage 52 cars in the race?
Yeah, you can. You could do online races. I've done online races against Max Verstappen, even Fernando Alonso, where you can have 20, 30 cars on it, and it's the same principle. You're racing against real guys on real tracks.
Right. And does that feel real? Does it feel?
Yeah, it does.
Close enough?
It is. It's exact same principles. You know, if you race someone a certain way or make certain mistakes, you'll have the same consequences. So yeah, it is quite close. But like you said, it's the best thing is to do the real thing and do real races, and the only way you can do that is experience over the years.
Right. Alex, we had the terrible news last week of Craig Breen's death over in Croatia. We had Art McCarrick from Motorsport Ireland on paying tribute to him, and just an unimaginably difficult time for him, for his family and for his friends, but such a blow to the Irish motorsport family as well, because he was someone who seemed very, very well liked, such a talented driver, and someone you knew as well.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely surreal. I still can't really comprehend what has happened. When I started racing back in 2008, he was my mechanic for my first year of karting, and even when I won the Young Driver of the Year award, he came out to celebrate. So massive blow to me, but especially to his close friends and his family and James and everyone. It's just surreal. It was a freak accident and very unfortunate. A huge blow to the Irish motoring community.
That's something that Art touched on as well last week. He talked about the fact that Craig used to come back and always race in Ireland, and he always remembered where he came from, and he was a world class driver, but always was keen to come back and give back. And even the fact that you say he come back and helped celebrate your award as well, it speaks volumes of the man. Yeah,
absolutely. He did. Even 2 days before he passed, he was back down in Galway to his roots, bringing young talent into the sport and mentoring and tutoring them. So I couldn't speak higher of the man, and it's just a massive blow to everyone in Irish motor racing, and yeah, condolence to his close family and friends.
Yeah, indeed. We wish you the very best of luck with the year, Alex. Thanks a million for joining us today.
Very much, Ger. Thank you, Shane.
It's Alex Denning, Motorsport Ireland Young Driver of the Year, and hopefully future star.